Hello, this is Michael Colliner, giving a shout out to Dan Allende. I know you're in town, but I have no idea how to contact you. What's up?
Hi, I'm Wells Taylor. I want to give a shout to Triangles.
Albert Lee, shout out to Quesadillas.
Shout out to brunch.
It's Joshua Walls. Shout out to Edgewood, Switchville, Pittsburgh area, painters, lifters, teachers. It's been good. It's a good day. Nice and beautiful snow, rain. And yeah, JoshuaWalls.com.
Josh shouts out to Fields of Corn because there's nothing else there but corn. And I love it that way. Robert Herkimer gives a shout out to my daughter. I'm so proud of you. You've grown into a responsible, mature, young woman. Love, Dad. Kevin Charlotte gives a shout out to my mom because she gave me a place to live and helped me get a car when I had no place to live and no car. Ben C. Raintree gives a shout out to basketball team. Ranked number 2. I went to college there, so I always root for their teams. Natasha gives a shout out, not from Pittsburgh, but to community colleges, specifically Brazos Sport Community College. I want to celebrate community colleges for bringing culture and learning opportunities to rural areas like mine. Brian gives a shout out to hotties that are taller when they sit down. Beesby, Cray Cray. Alan Vu, not from Pittsburgh, gives a shout out to the bike shop in Temple City. It's a cool shop. Rodney gives a shout out to my girlfriend named Kathy, who is in another country at the moment. I want to give a shout out to her because she is the one that completes me, the one that makes me truly happy, the one that I can't live without. Jasmine C. To all my nursing school girls, it's been a rough time in nursing school, but I'm so thankful to get to go through it with you all. Garnett gives a shout out to Mom. The reason is because I love her and would like to see her. Janice gives a shout out to my son Christopher. The pump went out on my well, leaving me without water. And Christopher is giving up his day off today to come pull the pump out of the well and replace it with another one. Jeff Jameson gives a shout out to the Civic Center. I love this place. All of the best memories of my childhood are from concerts or events here. Gina Gilmore gives a shout out to Be Active Life YouTube channel. He is a cool guy. James gives a shout out to the guys at work. They just work hard and deserve it. Tracy gives a shout out to Jesse. He gave me a beautiful grandson.
Hi, I'm Cecilia, and I like to give a shout out to my drink.
I'm Derek Jones, and I want to give a shout out to Pink Floyd.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I'd like to give a shout out to Nude Tights and Side Eye.
Naked.
It's Marquise. Shout out to Philly 215. In school right now, but never forget where I come from.
Hi, my name is Sonia Polanitz from Pin Hills. I'd like to give a shout out to Squirrel Hill.
My name is Morgan Lemko. I'm trying to give a shout out to Dabby Bear. You're number one in my heart and number one in the heart of the people.
Terry Ann Wallace. Shout out to 2 years ago when I had a friend staying in my basement. Our area had a meteor shower going on. We got into my car, bundled up, drove up to a small subdivision in some nearby hills, and stood there and watched, absolutely mesmerized. Judy. Shout out to the memory of getting together with my aunt who has since died from cancer and her 3 daughters, my cousins. My 2 sisters and my brother was there also, and none of us had seen each other for about 40 years. It was bittersweet, but also of memories new and old. Wendy from Michigan. Shout out to the time I had horrible service at Chipotle. This memory is crystal clear. Allison Brooks. Shout out to Boring, Oregon. I suppose the name says it all. I can remember a time in my preschool years sometime. We lived somewhere between suburbs and rural area. We had a neighbor across the street, and she was older, probably in her 60s or 70s, and she had a quaint little creek that ran the edge of her property, then under a wire fence before going into a small ditch, and then was disappearing into a culvert I was too big to crawl into. It was around Easter, in the spring, and I remember standing at the end of our driveway for the longest time, completely enchanted by the beauty of the area. The animals buzzed and whirred. The foliage was green, damp, and shimmered in the sun. The flowers were all different colors, beautiful and wild. Finally, the water, it perked, gurgles and trickled in a language I've never heard, and the sun played and danced in each little wave. The last thing I remembered about the occasion was my dad in the panicking furious strut across the road as I'm sitting in the neighbor's creek, submerged in the water that I couldn't resist. My name is Al Sanchez. Shout out to the time when I went on my first date with my wife. The first thing I did is plant a huge kiss on her. We went somewhere private and got to know each other better. We hit it off. Gina Gilmore. Shout out to playing games using my imagination in the days before computers and smartphones were common. Preston. Watching the funeral procession of Art and Senna from the roof of our apartment building with dozens of other strangers. It was a sad occasion as he was a very popular figure, but it was also a very strange day as there were people I had never met standing on our apartment property. Shout out to the day my oldest daughter was born. It was late in the evening and I walked into the bathroom to use it and my water broke. I went back into the bedroom and started to cry. My husband asked me if I was crying because I was in a lot of pain, and I said no, that I was crying because I was about to become a mother, and from this moment on, I would be responsible for another life, and I felt a bit overwhelmed at the moment. We went to the hospital. After several hours, my daughter was born, and I instantly felt complete love for her and an intense protectiveness for her well-being. Once, I lost my pet rat. I looked around my house all day and couldn't find it. A few weeks later, I found it dead, hidden away in the garage. My brother confessed to attaching it to a toy parachute and throwing it off the second-story balcony so it could float down like his toy army man. When he threw it off, the rat died, and he hid it in the garage so I wouldn't get mad at him. I was 10 and my brother was 7.
Robin gives a shout out to my husband. He is a great man whom has always worked hard to support his family. He has often worked 10 hours daily, 6 days a week. He still finds time to call and ask if I need anything on his way home. He also goes to a homeless shelter once a week to really speak with the people there in hopes to lift their countenance by sharing his experiences. He is quick to give money to those more needy than ourselves. He also never forgets birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, or the names of new people he meets. Sebastian gives a shout out to all of my relatives living in South Florida. I haven't kept in touch, and I want them to know that I'm still around. I miss them, and I think they're good people. Edgar Rivera gives a shout out to my mom. I love my mom. Cameron gives a shout out to, he gave me the recommendation for me to get a long-deserved promotion. Amy gives a shout out to my boyfriend because he is awesome. Barry gives a shout out to Dale's Restaurant. Thanks for being the best place around for fresh vegetables. Bill gives a shout out to my mom. She died 2 years ago from cancer. Really loved her, and she was the best.
It's their first night out in like 4 months.
Yeah, like, and I'm like smoking it in your face. Is this already playing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, great. Hi, I'm Alicia Eddy, and I'd like to give a shout out to Torn and Sedona.
I'm Temperance, and I want to give a shout out to this nice weather today. It's really beautiful outside, and it's not below zero, so hey.
Hi, my name is Topher, and I'd like to give a shout out to the amazing Blossom Doherty over in London. He turned 24 yesterday.
Yeah, my name is Molly. I'm from China. Yes, I have been in this city for 2 months. Oh, thanks for so many things, so many people. First thing, I thanks to my supervisor, Hernando, Professor Hernando, and he gave me so many help. And another thing is my husband and my child. I'm a loudest son.
What's your name?
What's your name? Tony. Yeah. English not so good.
Daniel Johnson gives a shout out to my kids, letting me sleep in on a Saturday morning. They are young, ages 6 and 8, and they are great kids, but they usually need some assistance in the morning, or one to wake me up, and my wife on the weekends, which is of course fine, but they surprised us by getting us their own breakfast and playing nicely together while letting us sleep in today. Lori gives a shout out to my hubby. He stayed up with the new baby last night so Mama could get a little sleep before the next feeding. Rachel gives a shout out to burnt cookies. Every time there was a bake sale, Mom would make cookies. We got to keep the burnt ones at home. To this day, I like my cookies extra crunchy. Angel gives a shout out to the best Mexican restaurant ever. Super friendly and tasty foods. Angela gives a shout out to my kids. John gives a shout out to my mom. Tammy gives a shout out to my daughter. She's an amazing person. Juggles a home, career, and family. Always a smile on her face. Glenn gives a shout out to my girlfriend. Just want her to know that I'm thinking of her. Matt gives a shout out to trees. Katie gives a shout out to my mom Trina, the nicest lady in the world. Alex gives a shout out to the abandoned old high school. Michael gives a shout out to my dad. He has always been there for me when I needed him. Shout out from Shivani Shah. From Shadyside to Yoko Ono. Hope Byrne from Oakland gives a shout out to Bridget Byrne. Dawn from Oakland gives a shout out to Erica Hill. Happy birthday. Philip William from East gives a shout out to Ollie. Kyman Casey gives a shout out to Tevin. Owen, floating far from above, gives a shout out to the big CT little guys. Marcus Barkley from Verona gives a shout out to Buddy the dog. Rick from Westford gives a shout out to any dog. You know who you are.
Hey, I'm Josie. And I'm Tolu. And we want to give a shout out to Gamma Sigma Sigma.
Hi, I'm Melanie, and this is a shout out to my acapella group, Joyful Noise. They're my family away from home, so yeah.
Hi, my name is Rohit, and this is a shout out to Ryer Martial Arts Academy for a great anti-bullying program. Thank you.
This is a shout out to my dog, Cheney. She's at home in Illinois, and I get to see her this week, so hey, Cheney. What's up, dog? What's your name? I'm Gabby Dekoff.
Here's something from Nick. A memory. Something that takes you back to where you were. I remember when I was 3 or 4, we were growing up in a sketchy Buffalo neighborhood. One day, a bunch of boys on the block were going to the corner store. I remember them say, "Come on, Nick, we're just going to the store. You can come with us." It was a beautiful, sunny summer day. The boys were older than me by maybe a few years. I knew I shouldn't just go away without telling my mother, but they were telling me we'd only be away for a couple of minutes and that everything would be okay, so I went with them. When I returned, my mother was frantic. She must have been screaming non-stop for me. I couldn't understand exactly why she was so upset, but I also knew that I had implicitly disobeyed her by running off without telling her. The boys I went with were African American. I was white. This would have been in the mid-1960s. Looking back, I'm sure my mother was petrified of that neighborhood, which seemed perfectly fine and nice by my 3 or 4-year-old perspective, but it only would have been a year or two before we moved to the white suburbs. Even though my actual memory had little or nothing to do with race, every time I think of the memory, I think in terms of race. Thanks, Nick. Here's one from Sonia from Madison, Wisconsin. It was 3:30 in the morning when I first left the hostel in rural Queensland. As I walked to the beach, the stars were so numerous and bright that I couldn't help but look up at them the whole time I was walking, awestruck with their beauty. In the dark, I found the edge of the forest reserve and climbed the steps that were carved into the hillside, batting cobwebs out of my face and hoping that none of the spiders were venomous. I sat down on an outcropping at the eastern point and listened to the ocean waves in the dusk. For the first time, I saw the sun rise over completely open waters that spanned as far as I could see, and all I could do was sob with the astounding beauty of it all. Thank you, Sonia. Here's one from Matt C. One of my earliest memories is of burning my hand on an iron. I remember wanting to touch the iron for no real reason, touching it with 2 fingers, and although it definitely hurt, the thing I always remember is that I was embarrassed that I touched the thing even though I knew it would have burned me. Even though it hurt pretty bad, I didn't tell my mom that I needed ice or anything. Here's something from Susan. I remember the day my father passed away. He had myoblastic leukemia, and it was its final stages. He was put on a morphine drip, which painlessly put him to sleep. All the family was there, and we were with him when he died. I love my father very much, and I'll never forget him. Thanks, Susan. Here's one from Edamar Silva. I went to meet a girl at a movie theatre after we met online a couple of weeks ago. She was way more attractive than her pictures showed, and she had a great personality, and a beautiful Ukrainian accent that was sexy. We became really good friends and decided to hang out more often in the near future. Well, good luck, Silva. Here's one from Mia. I have a memory of my confirmation service in high school. The confirmation occurred through the church that I'd gone to throughout my life, so I knew most of the people confirming with me. I'd chosen to wear a sweater set and a skirt as opposed to a dress, unlike the rest of the girls, who were by and large wearing dresses. There was a procession at the beginning of the confirmation mass, and candidates filed into the seats at the front of the church that had been reserved for us. The mass itself was an ordinary affair, although when it got to the homily, the bishop gave a homily regarding the importance of confirmation and how this was the first time we as adults would choose to be Catholic. Then we were asked as a group to answer questions regarding our faith, which we learned about in confirmation classes leading up to confirmation. Finally, we had a procession to the front of the church where the bishop anointed us, confirmed, and we proceeded to our seats. The rest of the mass was also a normal affair compared to other masses. I did not pay strict attention to what was going on during the other parts of the mass, as it has become routine for me at this point, and I wasn't very committed to my religion. But I was instead going through with the confirmation to satisfy my parents. Thanks, Mia. This next one's from Josh. I remember when I first flew to Japan when I was in the Air Force. I just turned 20, I was very nervous, and I didn't know anybody. I just knew I was going to live there for the next 2 years. First, I had to take a flight from Indiana to Seattle. Stayed there the night, and had to wake up at 4:30 to get on the next plane ride that was over 10 hours. I was lucky. I was sitting alone in the front, so I was very comfortable. That whole plane ride, I was thinking of all that could happen, both good and bad. I imagined every stereotype and cliché in the book, and was kind of happy in a way. On the other hand, I was nervous about my job and the new things that would happen. 10 hours, and one really small meal later, I was supposed to get off and meet one of my future employees. I got off the plane and met him while still in his uniform. He greeted me with a handshake, and then I calmed down. Much after that was a blur. They temporarily lost my luggage, I was taken to the hotel on base, and then I passed out from jet lag. It may not have been the most exciting story, but it was one that began a huge chapter of my life.
Kevin Wanton from Oakland gives a shout out to Pitt Dance Marathon. Great performance. Noah Abramson from South Oakland gives a shout out to Weston Weiss. Shema Al-Khalid from Uptown gives a shout out to Sahar Abdulaziz. Elena and Shannon from Verona give a shout out to Matt the janitor. Matt loves bed. Frank and Nick from Oakland give a shout out to CMU. Vinny from South Oakland gives a shout out to Mama Banks and Jingo. Waldo gives a shout out to Waldo. Guy from his 10-year-old Ford gives a shout out to Mr. Rogers and the letters F, Q, and U. Claire Henschker from Squirrel Hill gives a shout out to babe-ass interp teachers. Noam Tassan from Fox Chapel gives a shout out to Anna for being my rock. Evan Metzke from Oakland gives a shout out to Jordan Suture for putting on such a cool concert. Katie from Oakland gives a shout out to Stewie, aka Stewart, aka Chubbs, aka Stewman. Bradley Schneider from Oakland gives a shout out to Tavon, that friendly man driving a sedan. You know who you are. You're a goddamn saint. Nathan Derone from Oakland gives a shout out to Jeremy McDaniel. Shalaka from Oakland gives a shout out to Natasha Barber. Les from Oakland gives a shout out to Les. Nick Harrington from Oakland gives a shout out to Abracadaniel. Anonymous shout out to my bod. Yet another anonymous shout out to that feeling you get the day after a rainy Halloween when there's still so much candy in your house because kids stayed home. Anonymous shout out to Cleveland. Another anonymous shout out to all the ladies in the house. Anonymous shout out to use your blinkers, twats.
Hi, my name is Sasha, and I want to give a shout out to hoodlums, vandals, and miscreants.
This is Maya, and I'd like to give a shout out to my little brother who got a really good score on the SATs. So good job, Marco. Thanks.
Woo! Woo! Hi, my name is Sean Vitale, a Scranton native
And I want to shout out to Steve Carell, all the creators in the office, BJ Novak, and friends of Bill W.
Shout out to Bayesian Inference.
Hi, my name is Carl from South Oakland, and I'd like to give a shout out to all my glib globs!
This is Claire Chin. I would like to give a shout out to my vibrator. Vibrator, you really keep me sane, and you are better than all the rest.
Shout